145, 1 repeater, and we did our second one as of this past Monday. I have not yet added message handling to it because I'm not sure how many of you know how to do that yet. So once we get that established, it'll be part of the NTS national system, and we will be handling messages. And we get those messages possibly from HF, and some of you may, let's go back to this. Does anybody here handle messaging yet? You do?
Years ago. I've listened to it on the net, but not past messages.
Okay. And you did what?
I did it years ago. It's been a long time.
Well, some of us did it years ago, not like me. I'll get into that why I took a hiatus, but the message handling, it's necessary that you do it properly. And we'll go over the exact things that you need to do. An example would be, it's fun to use phonetics that are really goofy when you're talking to people and say, oh, my call sign is, I don't know, what would be mine be? WB3 Pecan, Whiskey 3, Burger King Nerd will go. Okay, that could be cool. Somebody could remember that. Well, that doesn't fly when you're doing message handling because it has to be in the international format and it has to be precise when you're giving phonetics for words that you're passing. It also, there's a way to address numbering and so forth. And there are such things as standard messages that are from the ARRL. They have a standard message that they can say ARRL message number 03. And then everybody goes, oh, 03, okay, put that down. Because after a while you get to know what that means. So, like I said, it's been a while since I have done it. So that's where this book comes in. This is your field manual. And it'll tell you in here what all of those things are. There are message forms that you'll grow accustomed to using. And there are, it'll explain the ways you do that. And we'll also be learning that here in the class as well. One of the biggest things for us is, like here, the ARRL numbered radiograms are used for relief emergency use. I'll just give us an example. This is not on the test yet, but their first one, says, everyone safe here, please don't worry. So you would say, you know, you give your headings and all that, which we'll get into, and then when it comes to the message, ARL message 1, and that's what that means. So you can pass these along to the next station, and they see that, and it saves you the time of sending, okay, I'm in CW mode again, of saying every word in the message. Some of us are old enough to have done this with CW, but you don't have to worry about that now, I'm sure. That's what this was developed from. When you did it on Morse code, you're sitting there beeping away, and it's taking you forever to get through, so you just say ARL message 1. So, okay, that's one example of it, but that's the kind of stuff that's in this book that you'll be learning. So once we get into the messaging and all that, we're gonna add that to the net, and that'll be after the informational portion of the net. Informational portion of that so far was, first one was an introduction to me to those. How many were on the nets at least one of those nights? Anybody? Woo, okay, we got it. You were listening
I was
though.
listening, yeah.
Okay.
Listening.
So that's the kind of thing that'll happen there when we get into the messaging. And you gotta understand, these nets are a training thing. We train for the real deal. And that's what all of this is geared toward. And everybody says, well, I learned all this stuff, but I never used it. Well, you can, because there are times that it comes up, like say there's a, you know, like let's use Pittsburgh, that river floods from time to time, and they need people to evacuate and watch over things, and that's where you'll leave here and say, oh, I've got the week off, I'll go out to Pittsburgh and handle traffic and help out. And that's where you may be on this site of the flood, originating a message, and then to someone else who's at their network control system, and then you pass the message on to where it needs to go. It could go to the Emergency Operations Center or EOC of that area, or it could go across the country to a relative who's worried about their family that lives in the flood zone. That's kind of what all that becomes. That's where your messages come and go to. And how do they get there? Well, they get there through nets like we offer, where we practice it, we practice passing those nets on, or those messages on, and someone will say, okay, I can handle traffic. They'll come into it and say, okay, I'm in York County, I can take York County messages, so we'll pass that on to that person. That person does the checks and balance back and forth, so they make sure they have it right, and then they'll pass it on, maybe to the final destination, or they will take it and move it on to HF, where it can go across the country on the shortwave bands that we used to call them when we were kids. Shortwave radio, but, well, okay, when I was a kid. Some of you aren't old enough to be that, but we used to have the big, which is what brought me into ham radio. I used to sit and listen to the parlor radio at home with the shortwave bands on it, and I'd hear the hams on 75 meters, and so that's kind of cool. I wonder how to do that. And then I would turn around, I heard this Morse code thing. So I self-taught myself how to read Morse code so I could take part of that. But that's what, for some reason, it took me a long time to find someone to give me that novice test. By 1975, I had that novice test, and that whole history from there. So anyway, that's where these messages go, and that you can send them across in shortwave to the next station. And so apparently, if there's a message that comes to us to send, and it has to go to California, you may want to say, okay, I can handle that message. Then you take it on to the information net or the message handling net, NTS system. There are several of those across the band, of all the shortwave bands to get you to that final destination. And then you get on and you would say, I have a message for whatever county in California. And then someone will say, I can handle that message. So you pass that message across country, and then that person delivers it to last leg. Usually is the way it works. They could put it onto another, maybe VHF, UHF, 2 meter, 70 centimeter net that they would have out there and pass the message on. And that's how that function goes. So that's one of the things you'll be learning to do, is handle those messages. That's one of the important parts of what we do. Another part of what we do is we work obviously very closely. Now you have RACES and ARES, and each has their own little thing, and this at one time was separate units, and the two were competing and all that. And I've been in this chair, this is my third time through. First time after many years of working the field and working emergencies, I ended up in a goofy way. They said they needed someone to put into the position for RACES, which is for Dauphin County, and they said, Terry doesn't work during a day, he can do the meetings, let's give it to him. And I said, yeah, it's not the way it works when you're self-employed. You never have downtime. But it worked out, and then I passed it on to another gentleman because I was getting ready to leave the area, and then I was back sort of halfway, and he actually passed away, and I took over and got through it. And this time around, the guy that was handling it didn't do classes and didn't do a lot of things that is required in the job, and things worked out. And I did not fire the guy, even though he's telling everybody I did. I did not. His boss above, who was above me, took care of that, and I was put into this because I have been teaching things for all my life. I was teaching how to get a ham radio license back in '75, and trained a lot of people to get into this. Not the way you get them now. We had to actually learn, at that time, I had to teach circuitries and how to repair radios and all of that. But that was, you guys are lucky if you got into it now. You don't have to worry with all that. You can memorize questions, and then you have to come to my mentoring classes at our club meeting to find out what that all meant. And hopefully I can get all of that straightened out for you all over time. In part of the training that we're doing, I'm going to include in it our club, that we have is the Harrisburg Radio Amateurs Club. There are several clubs in this county. There's the Barrettsburg Amateur Radio Club in the northern part of the county, and there's this this divide, it's both a sociological divide and a physical barrier called Peters Mountain, and it's to the north of us. It becomes a different world up there because, and yes, I live up there. I'm from another world, and now you heard it here first. So, Peters Mountain is a barrier, but there's also only one road in and out, well, two, but they all come to one point in Dauphin, and very often that road gets flooded, and you can't get traffic up and down there on those roads. So when it comes to also radio communications and how it's handled, that whole area has been developed into its own little MCOM group up there, if you want to call it a group. It's actually more of a group of people that are also firemen and so forth. They've been working these jobs for quite a while. They do an excellent job, and they are part of us. I met with them today, and they're right on the ball. They do their own drills. I've been with them when they've worked floods in their streets, because they cover areas like Lighthouse, Tower City, and Williamstown and all that up that way, and they get flooded a lot. And they're just remarkable to listen to them on the air and watch how they handle things, because it's their life. That's what they do. And down here, we don't have a lot of that things happening, but once in a while, that Susquehanna River comes out in its banks, tornadoes come through, hurricanes, and it knocks out power to areas. And you'll find that the cell phones are not going to work, they're overloaded, and that's where we come into play. We are the third or tertiary communication system in the county. The Dauphin County 911 Center in Gibson Boulevard in Harrisburg, the lower end, close to Steelton, or whatever that is down there. It's another area, but anyway, it's close to Steelton. They have two lines of communication. They have their main Dauphin County system that they use. They have a backup to that system. And when it comes to health and welfare and getting people where they need to be, and they run out of the ability to handle it because they're working real emergencies where they're dealing with police and fire and all that, the rest of it comes to us, and then it's up to us to pass those messages to where they need to be. We actually have a position in the 911 center. We have a room of our own. Well, it was ours until now they've moved another one of their consoles in there, and they work with us during these emergencies. And we pass messages that we get onto them, they pass some on to us to pass out to where they need to go. We also have ham radios. They are the ICOM 2720s. They're a dual band radio. They have the ability to cross band repeat. We have one in the 911 center. We have one in every municipal building in Dauphin County. And that is so we can tie them all together. They were professionally installed, which means not by hams. They were actually put together professionally by, I think KNC is the company that takes care of it. And whenever there's a problem with them, they will go and move the antennas and all that for us, all paid for by your tax dollars and through Dauphin County. Those radios occasionally get moved because I'll use Halifax as an example because that's one of the craziest ones that I've ever seen. I went looking for the radio when I took this over originally, and they said, "Oh, that Racy's radio." Yeah, I said, "I'm here in your comm room. I find all your radios, but where's that one?" "Oh, that's back here where we park the trucks." I said, "The trucks?" He said, "Yeah, there's snow plows and in the garage." I went back, sure enough, there was a desk there, covered in filth, and covered up with stuff, and I started reading through it. Sure enough, there was a radio, dirty, but it was there. And I said, "Well, this is for the Halifax Township. This needs to be up at the firehouse." "Hey, we don't know anything about that." So we had to work at that, and then I went back after the gentleman who had this position, after I was out of it, it was supposed to be handled. I went back and found it in the firehouse in a cupboard, and the antenna was still down in the other building. Those are the kind of things I have to go around and find, because that's, and as you all get the training, a number of you will also be listed as an assistant or a secondary emergency coordinator. And you'll probably end up doing some of that in your local areas. And that's how I rely on people who are trained for this, who can step in and help out with whatever needs to be done, whether it's setting up the comm rooms in these other municipalities, helping out at the for the emergencies that we have, or the drills. And there will come a time as I will pass this whole thing on to someone in the team, whoever that may be. You'll see maybe in a few years someone else up here teaching the next batch of people, and one of them could be one of you. It's the way it works. The whole idea of this whole program is you start out at level 1. As you look through the book, you'll see that you start out on level 1, and then you achieve all of those accomplishments. I sign it off, and then you go on to the next level, and the final level is level 3. And there are a lot of optional things there. The requirements are listed below, the options are all. And when you get to level 3, that's my level. And I looked over this and I said, I have almost everything. There are things I don't. They said, okay, you got a year to get it. So I'll be taking courses different from the ones that you're all taking to make sure I get up to that speed. Any comments or questions so far before I continue? Yeah. Yep.
So on level 1, the different courses that are optional right now, can some of those be put on ARES Connect so we can get credit for those, or is that? I know we do them through, some of them are through FEMA, the ICS 100, ICS 700, or FEMA, or just the just the ARRLs could be done through ARRL.
Yeah, they can be put on there. Yeah, let's go back to level 1. They suggest ICS 100 and 700 and Sky 1, and the EC 001. I would say they're not optional in the way I look at it, because Incident Command, Intro to Incident Command, ICS 100, all of these are free. They take a little while to do online, and they're worth going through to get to where you need to be. But yeah, I can put them on. And the ARRL EC 001, let's go to that while we're on that. I've covered pretty much everything that I want to cover in the first part of it. Okay, this course is geared toward what we're going to be doing is pretty much that course. And what it will be is I'm going to ask you all to take that course, sign up for it. And it used to be $60 and it's free now. I like that price better than what I paid. And you can opt for a mentor version or a non-mentored version. I would take the non-mentored version because this is where the mentoring actually comes to. Now, do you have any of those? You have them?
I've taken it, yes, long time ago.
Does anybody here taken the ARRL course? You have? How long ago?
January.
Oh, you did?
Works good online,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
How long did it take you to get through it? They say 40 hours.
I've been down, I had knee surgery in December, so I was stuck, so I did the FEMA 100, 200, 700, and 800, and I did the ARL 001 in the first 2 weeks of the month. I can't stand to sit at home doing nothing.
I'm with you on that. That's pretty good. Each of them has their value, and I would say everybody should have the ARRL one. And the ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800, they become the main requirements, start at 1 and continue up. And they're all covered in the book. Skywarn, I know they come around and give the presentation somewhere in the county. You said there was somewhere about?
I think they did it down on Gibson Street in October. I think it's been that way at least the last couple of years.
Well, there have been occasions we had them come into the Ham Club meeting and give it too. And I think for something like we're doing, they would probably, if we could schedule them, they would come in here and do this with us. Has anybody taken that course? Okay, very good. Well, they recommend a refresher every 2 years. And I've had it several times. And then there's an advanced one that is available as well. And that's, I recommend that. So I will try to see if I can get them to come here and give that again. Has anybody done it in the last year? Yeah? 2 years prior, anybody? It's time for a renewal anyway, I think. So, I'll work on that. And honestly, the ICS stuff is strictly online, and it'll take you through it. It'll give you little quizzes along the way, and then when you get to the end of it, there's a final exam. And when we all started doing this, there were people who said, this goes back a number of years. We had a lot of people in the groups that were doing MCOM that have been doing this forever. And they said, you know what, I already know this stuff, I'm not taking no stinking tests. Well, they weren't right in saying that, because even though you've worked it forever, and I've been through it all, I've been here since it started, that HAM's involvement and getting things organized, and the TMI drill, there were some of the people in the gang that I was with who wrote the whole thing for the 3 Mile Island drill, and we still use that today. Well, I should say we did until 2 years ago. Someone changed that.
Are we still gonna be doing the TMI drills, cause there's still fuel stored there?
From
I
what
was in a
understand,
meeting from Londonderry Township last week with the EOC there,
Mhm.
and they said at this point it's going to continue. They figure it's going to be till 2035 until shutdown is complete. So the fact that they're still handling and storing
Yeah.
materials, there's going to be some semblance of this organization for quite a while.
Yeah, 'cause it's going to be there for a while. Yeah, so we'll be getting, I don't know, Exelon used to give us little tchotchkes for being in it, in the drills.
Yeah.
And, I don't think Exelon's involved. Well, they have to be, I guess. Somebody's gotta be a
The
guardian.
company that they contracted to shut down, they shut down nuclear plants, well, they're going to be the ones that transition into the responsibility. And they're a separate company that specializes in financing of shutdowns and performance of the closeouts of the plants.
Okay. It's like when the department store goes out of business, some guy stand after a big sign.
Yeah, I guess so. It's, we got bits and pieces of it. I'm in the EOC center with the staff there as emergency communications.
Mm.
And I'm doing this to try to tie in more validly to the organization
Right.
than I have been. I've probably contacted you by email last year,
Oh, yeah.
and you sent me to the other guy,
Yeah.
and then nothing happened, so I just did the job.
And that's why I'm here today.
And that's why I'm here today.
Well, he's bitter that I'm here. Yeah, I will say that. He's bitter about that. And of course, he's been upset with me. I've known the guy for many years. He's done a lot of some work for me over the years, with electrical inspections and all that, and properties I own, but he decided he doesn't like me now. I didn't steal his job. He gave it up because he didn't do it, but that's right. He was supposed to be doing this. And the thing was, he didn't have the experience to be in a position, so he didn't know what to do. But, in some of my history, I covered this on one of the nets, but I've been a ham since like 75 and got involved, first of all, in building repeaters and things like that. It was fun. And because up in northern Dauphin County, we had no repeaters. We all worked simplex, and I got into that. And then at some point, I got to working with a gentleman, John Bozak, who was became a good friend. He and I worked at WITF TV in Hershey, and then later on I moved on to PBS and the Pennsylvania Television Network and so forth. And he got me involved in MCOM. Well, we didn't call it that then. We called it going out to where there's trouble and helping. Pretty much the same thing. But I learned from him and others that were involved in it, and we all kind of learned together. And there were some powerful personalities involved, and we all learned from them. And we were all new hams too. John was the most experienced, and he got us up and running with it. And the first one I got a call for was a flood in Johnstown, and that was in the late 70s or something like that. And there were a couple of floods and things. I wasn't here as a ham when the 72 flood hit here. I was in college, and when I became a ham after all of that. And but since then, there were quite a few emergency situations that came along I got involved in a big way. And one thing leads to another. Next thing I was in this position back, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, something like that, and came back 3 times. Three zip. I think after this, I'm going to be old enough to retire out of it, and someone else will take it over. And you guys can compete for that job, and I have nothing to say about it. That's the way it works. I also run my own companies. I have 2. I do sound for events, bands, festivals. We have a couple of festivals this summer. We do the sound for many bands and all that. And that's why I chuckle when they said, Terry can do it. He doesn't have a daytime job. They don't know what it's like. But I do find time for this and some of the other things that I'm my extracurricular activities as well. Okay, I got off on that subject, but this book is your personal guide to your achievements, and they will be checked off. But yes, I will.
Priority 1 message coming in on secure channel.
I forgot to turn my cell phone down. When I will ask those above me how to credit the ICS things and ARES stuff to your accounts as we go. Now, some of you have been collecting those points for a while, right? Anybody tell me how that actually functions? That's a new thing to me in this, but I know that everybody wants their points.
What do you do with them? What do you get them?
That's what I wondered.
You redeem them at Kmart?
That's it.
10 cents off per gallon of Giant.
There you go.
Circuit
And
City.
if you buy a burger with it, you get extra points this week. I'll find out that too, because that's a new thing that is only 2 weeks old to me. I didn't hear about it up to that point. So we'll
Terry.
go with that.
Terry, so the FEMA, they give you a certificate and you log in, so I don't think you'll be able to connect the FEMA to the ARRL Connect. So I think those, we just present you the certificates.
Oh, that's because it's FEMA.
Right,
That is true, that's right. But the ARRL one you can.
right.
And that's the example, when you get your FEMA, you get one of them. When you pass, which one's that for?
100, 200.
You get one of them for each level you accomplish. And just for giggles, one time, I had a room that used to be, it was supposed to be a dining room, but I moved ham radios into it. Had lots of wall space. I started putting up all of those things. And hams would come in and say, ooh, look at this. But there was some legitimate stuff there, like licensing and all that. But look at all this stuff. Yeah, it's impressive, but that's cool. I keep them on a cloud server now. They're in my phone. Whenever I need to show them, I can light up the phone and show them. I did bring a video along that I'll run. And some of you, how many saw the Walter Cronkite video? Anybody? See, he was a news reporter back in my day. He was also a ham. And he had this, he was part of the production of this one video. And it does go through what we are expected to do. And on this video, you're going to see, they'll be using tactical communications techniques. When you're on a real drill or actual real thing, you're gonna learn how to do your tactical IDs. You know, this was taken at a fire in California. They seem to like to have fires there. So they're well trained on how to deliver communications there. They'll call it by, what were some of these? They call them by the name of the area where it began. They'll say like the Brick Road Fire, Brick Road Fire Station 1, and then they'll call another one. And then at the end of all that, then they give their ham radio ID, and every 10 minutes they'll give their ham radio call sign. But when you're doing emergencies, it's cumbersome to keep saying your call sign. That's another thing you'll learn. That's how to handle that. You're using tactical communications. The other thing is how to speak. We're going to go over this pretty much in detail. How to speak on the microphone, how to hold the microphone, what to say, and what not to say. And for example, you're going to be told when you're in these situations, no cutesy words, proper phonetics when you're giving out your phonetics. You're going to, right Dave? He and I went back and forth texting while he was trying to run while he was successfully running the net last night on the club net, and he was using pretty cool actually call sign phonetics, and I'd said, no, it's this. The stuff that goes on behind the scenes when everybody else is doing their own thing. But there's also, we're used to saying certain things. We'll come up with a name for something. We'll say the QTH is or whatever, which means location. That means nothing to anybody. And when you're trying to get the messages across, some of the words, some of the abbreviations that we use mean something entirely different in another service. And several years ago, I was reminded of it, we were discussing something with the medics, and we used one of those terms, and he said, that means blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, to us it means this. And I said, but we would never hear us say that on the radio. And he said, it's a good thing because you really confuse everybody. And it was apparently something, I think it was the term HF, which to us means high frequency radio, HF bands. And that meant something to do with a life-threatening situation, and I don't know what it was. I should have wrote that down, but I don't know what it was. And so that's what you hear in this. When you see this and hear this video, pay attention to some of the terminology they use. And if you have questions on it, we'll go back over it. But let's see if I can discover where I parked that. And that was under here. And you know, and I just did this before you all came in, ham radio. Oh, wait a minute. It would help if I were to stop this. Back that up. And turn this on.
You understand that audio crap?
I understand some of it. Available at Guitar Center for only $250, and it does everything. It's a microphones line in, guitars in, and you can sit there with your guitar and play in a pub. Not that I would do such a thing. Okay, just trying to do this backwards is really interesting. Where do you kill the lights?
All of us will remember fire season. Years of drought, record temperatures, plenty of fuel, and times that seemed all of America was burning. I'm Water Cronkite. I'd like you to hear something.
Electricity's out in the entire town, and maybe I'm the only working generator. QSL loud and clear. Do you have any priority messages?
They're just two average guys who saw the need and volunteered.
Hold on, the station. Please stand by.
They're radio hams, amateurs, giving of their own time and spending their own money, trying to help out when and where America needs it most. Not just at wildfires, but at earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes.
Just one tornado now, the other one died.
At floods and any disaster. Hams belonging to amateur radio's emergency groups were called out on September 11th when America came under attack. Cell phone and landline circuits were jammed and virtually useless, but dozens of radio amateurs helped the police and fire departments and other emergency services maintain communications in New York, Pennsylvania, and Washington, D.C. Their country asked, and they responded without reservation. But being a good Samaritan sometimes brings with it a risk. And sometimes it's not just risky, it's downright dangerous.
There's a gas leak! Let's go! Turn off that way!
That's exactly what happened in Colorado in June 2002 on the 137,000-acre Hayman fire. This is rural America out here. You can't always rely on a cell phone and when you need help.
It looks like the wind shifted back to the west and or northwest, and it's moving the fire back in this direction.
The fire is just right over this ridge here behind me. It's starting to get close.
Looks like we're gonna have to prepare to get out of here pretty shortly.
The sky had already turned ominously dark. The air was thick with smoke, making breathing more difficult. The sun reduced in intensity to little more than a light bulb through the smoky haze. The wind, increasing in speed, began blowing the fire toward the volunteers.
The sheriff came through a little bit ago and asked us how fast we could get out of here. We're basically right across the road from the last fire line.
So they stood by their radios, handling emergency communications for the police, the fire, the Teller County Office of Emergency Services.
This is West Creek Fire.
Ted, can I get a status update your location, please?
Things are pretty quiet. Firefighters should be coming in for supper before long.
Role of amateur radio operators in this particular event has been very significant. We've provided a lot of communication capability. We're in an area where it's difficult to communicate. As a result, our capabilities greatly enhance the efforts of law enforcement, of firefighting, of the Red Cross, and the Salvation Army.
It takes a lot of cheeseburgers to fight a forest fire. In the end, there was a break in the weather. The winds changed, and all of the emergency workers, the firefighters, the police, the radio amateurs, handling the communications, all of them were safe.
This is WG0N. I'll be coming back to the command center.
You know, we call them radio amateurs, but their skill levels are anything but amateur.
These are people who in any other realm would be called professionals. They're the people who know how to put the pieces together, know how to build the networks, know how to get information from one place to another when every other system has failed. I don't think that's amateur.
Ham radio has been around for 100 years, but that doesn't mean out of date. Even America's Space Shuttle and the International Space Station have ham radio on board, and it's not just for the enjoyment of the crew.
Do you tend to reevaluate your life when you look at the Earth? Over.
When you float up here above the Earth in our little spacecraft and look down at the great big spacecraft that we all fly on, it makes us all think about what our priorities are. Over.
Someone once said that it's probably true that amateur radio is the only fail-safe communication system in the world. Many of you know I'm a sailor. I really enjoy being on the sea with the wind at my back, underway, under sail. What most of you don't know is I'm a radio ham too. My call is KB2GSD. And you can bet that when I'm on the ocean, even if the GPS, the radar, and the ship-to-shore fail, I've still got my ham radio station. It really is the best backed-up communication system in the world. And that's the way it is.
Yeah, I know, jeez. We ought to start a group, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Incidentally, think about Bob, he made this logo, I think it was pretty good. Give him a hand, he deserves it. He kept sending me things, what about this one? I like the lightning bolt touch, that was pretty cool. So anyway, you heard one of the guys in the beginning of it, he said QSL, he didn't take this course. He wouldn't have said that, but there, the one guy said something Creek Fire. That's one of those tactical call signs that they give it, and that's something you get used to. Well, even when we do the PMI drill, which is probably our biggest drill that we do, we use them. We will be involved in races, and there's a cool one up in Upper Dauphin County. I'm not sure what the Broad Mountain, I think it is. It starts at Muckle Rat's Boy Scout camp, and it is a horse ride, and they utilize us to be at the checkpoints along the horse ride to make sure that nobody was thrown off their horse and they made it through the checkpoints. All of that is training for the real deal, but it's also fun. And you get a day out in the field, they even feed you, and it goes 2 days. You can stay there overnight if you want, you can go home if you want. When you stay there overnight, you get a feel for what the whole thing is about, and you get to know these horse people. I do a number of things with horse people on my own through my company, and it's a whole breed of another people, and it's a whole different world that we don't get to see. And I actually love horses, so it's a lot of fun for me. I was probably 5 when I got on my first horse, and some of the things we miss from childhood is kind of fun. I do have a couple of things here to give you an overview of what's coming in the syllabus of this. And let's see if I have it up. Okay. No, go away. Now, as you go through, this is the EC001 thing, and like I said, what you're getting here will be called the mentor part of this. I need you all to sign up for it online if you haven't done it yet, and follow along, and you get to know from this, where you go. The introduction, of course, is first, and it talks about our professional image, how we, what in the world? Yes, I love the app.
Yeah, pretty nice.
Yeah, well, look. It doesn't work. So, it'll go away, I'm sure. So anyway, all these things, the emergency communications organization systems, partnering with agencies, partner agency for communication, working with the public, all of that is covered, and it goes on in different sections. We'll do section by section as we go through them, and from that you can see that you're going to be introduction to nets, and this is something that I've been trying to get straightened with people most of the people you'll find in our general area that are doing nets didn't learn from anybody. They didn't learn the proper way, I should say, for the most part. They mirrored what someone else did. And an example of a bad net, and I love the guys to death, but Upper Dauphin County up at Berry Mountain, they have a net that they run, and they do a roll call net of people that don't even exist anymore, and they still have them on their roll call. They'll say, okay, we're calling so-and-so, they give this roll call of these ham operators that maybe checked in once 5 years ago, but they're on the roll call, and they go down the list, and they spend all their first 5 minutes or 10 minutes calling people that are never gonna answer. And I said to them, where'd you get that? Where'd you learn to do that? Oh, we copied Pine Groves, and Pine Grove's a bunch of long ago retired people that they learned from. So that's where that goes awry. We're gonna be covering, as an addendum to some of this, I have about a 90-page book I've put together so far, and it's not finished, on how to properly run nets, and it covers several different kinds of nets. I'm gonna send that off to the printer and get them made up, and if, I think everybody should have to know how to run a net properly, so that when you're thrust into this position, I use Skywarn as an example. The purpose of Skywarn is supposed to be that you train on the net that we have in this area on Wednesday nights at 9 o'clock. You train on that. You're supposed to learn how to handle the traffic that you take in. An example on that one is you're taking in weather reports as a practice session. When you come on the net, you're supposed to give 2 weather conditions in your area at that moment. It could be temperature, barometric pressure, it could be how much rain is coming down, all of that. The purpose of that isn't just to make up busy work on the net, it's to teach you to collect some data. And if you have one of them fancy weather stations with the whirligigs and all the things up in the mount, up in the roof, you got a lot more to tell us. So that's what that's for. When the storms do hit, my phone is alerted, and you can be on that alert too. And you can find where these areas are. Now they will contact you and say, hail has been reported in your area. Tell us the size of the hail, and in the courses that you take, they'll tell you how to determine the size. You don't say, well, it's about the size of, no, there's a specific guide to them, and you tell them that specific method or how it's presented of the hail, or if they want to know how many inches per hour are coming down of snow or rain and all that. They'll tell you what they want to know. And very often over the last couple of years, I've heard somebody say, you know, I got on the net because it was storming, but nobody brought up the net because they weren't instructed how. That's a failing, and I want to correct that failing with this group so that when you do see this coming up, everybody will be deputized to start the net and bring it up, call for people to report, and tell us what you need to report. And it can also be sent out as a direct email or a page to everybody to start checking what they need to know. Now they'll also tell you what areas they're more interested in than others. And an example would be today, on the way down here, you know, I came over a mountain and I could see the valleys beyond. And I could see a snowstorm coming from the Duncannon area, following the valley between what is called Third Mountain and Peters Mountain. There was definite blizzard coming through there. And I was in the middle of it. So that would be the kind of thing they would want to know about. And when the weather people, they'll also look for rotation in the clouds, and that tells them there's potential for a hurricane or a tornado, actually, is what they're looking for. When they call you for that, they want to know, do you see rotation? There was one, I think I heard you guys we were talking about one day. This what didn't ever get to that net, but I was on the 2-1 repeater, not the 210 repeater, right?
Thank you.
It's the 2-1 repeater, 145 2-1, and one guy says, I swear I see a tornado coming across the mountain. And I thought it was you. I said, you were out in Lingostown, I think, by that time, and you could see it. This goes back a year ago. But that's the kind of stuff they're looking for. It's not really officially a tornado until it touches down somewhere, but eventually it did. But it skimmed out over top of Blue Mountain and went across it and disappeared out toward Hummelstown. That's the kind of stuff they'll want to know.
Remember that, yeah.
So,
How do you remember that?
I remember everything. So, but it was cool to hear it, and a couple of people chimed in and said, oh, I see it coming here too. Well, stay out of the way. I'm thinking this all the time. Don't run to it.
Did you hear me say I saw a cow go flying by?
Yeah, that's what it did. And they're not vindictive. They don't turn around and come back after you like they did in the movie and pick up cows. They don't have a mind of their own. But in the movie they did, and that was really cool. And no sharks. I wanted to see the sharks fly by. But that's the kind of stuff that when you see these things happen, you can activate that net too. You don't have to wait for the guy that you're used to hearing on the air as the net controller described, telling you that you can open it up. You're supposed to be opening that up and taking command, because you see the problem happening, take command, call for people, and activate the net. And then others will follow you as well. And that's the whole idea of it. We train so that when there's a real emergency, we can just jump in and don't wait for instructions. You already know how. And that's what I want to teach on all of that. And having said that, the Skywarn net that's up now, there were two of us who started that. I can't remember how long ago that was. I know it was, who was I dating then? That'll tell me, because I can do it by that. It was started a long time ago. And we tried to get the CPRA club involved in it, and we kept hearing things like, well, we have these cost initiatives, and I'm thinking, somebody worked for the government. It's not what we're looking for. We're looking for volunteers to help out. So we decided, at one point I pulled the plug and having everyone else join in, and I said, we're doing this. So Joe, KQ3F, who was our treasurer, he was with our club quite a while. He was a meteorologist. And I said, let's make this happen. So we made that happen, and it became the Harrisburg Area Skywarn Net. And it was a training ground for everybody. And at one point in time, this started to grow out of control. Instead of being the Harrisburg area, which included Dauphin, Cumberland, and Perry counties, suddenly it became Adams County. Then it became Lancaster, Lebanon, and on, Northumberland County, and on. So that went out of hand. And when that happened in the last 2 years, I think. Am I wrong? Or is that?
Yeah, you're right. It just.
Did you do that?
Well, yeah, see, I got the list. He says, this is what we gotta call us. So where's the Clerp, Snyder
Chuck was
County?
one of the,
Oh, God.
he was one of the net controllers, but it went out not because of him, but because of their guidance, I believe. Is that a proper way to put that?
Yeah, he just wanted to control everything. I mean, if he'd could take the whole state, he would've.
Yeah, which is why I'm here now. But he wanted it to be big. What it became then was more of a club than an actual training method to teach.
I thought it was a group.
Well, it's a group too. And a group. But anyway, he didn't do the proper training on it. Why? Because he didn't know it. He was in a position where he shouldn't have been. He didn't know how to train people to do the things. We're going to learn it the right way. That's in my book. That's due for publishing, hopefully by next week. And you can get it on Amazon or on your Kindle for only $1.25. Now it'll be available here for the printing cost. But that'll teach you every detail of how to run a net, including the Skywarn. And I asked, how do I bring this back? And because the gentleman he's referring to won't talk to me now, and the guy who is running the net refuses to talk to me, and I can't control it. And it can't be changed into it because it's become an animal all of its own. So I was advised to start the Dauphin County Skyborne Net and use it as a teaching tool and train everybody how to handle it. We will connect it with the net of the Weather Service in State College, and we report directly to them anything we find. And a friend of mine is a meteorologist with Channel 21, and it's so cool, once in a while he'll say, you know, our ham radio weather spotters spotted this, and I'm thinking, I call him, hey, thanks, it was cool. But he won't call us by name, just the ham radio operators. And he gives us a lot of credit. He's been to some of our meetings in the past, and he likes to get involved with us. And he does it without coming here. I keep him up on what's going on. I shot a video. I had straight line winds come through my farm. I have an open area to the west. It's flat line for, I looked at it through the geographical stuff. It's 9.5 miles to the west is the first mountain, and it's the Newport Mountain. I always wondered what it was, but I've been up on that mountain with radio transmitters for years and realized when I'm sitting at my breakfast table looking out that window, I'm looking at the Newport Mountain, and I'm in Halifax. Well, anyway, 9.5 miles of straight line winds and a terrible storm hit, and then I have a ravine that develops in a pasture field. And it's all kind of tall trees down in that ravine, and the winds came straight across and hit that ravine and the trees and just snapped them all at the top, right at that level. You could stand there on that field and look out and say, wow, there used to be trees there. So I went down and looked, and they were all broken right over the top. It took us 2 years to clean it out because all the trees that were down. Of course, we didn't work at it day and night to get it done, but we didn't need that pasture anyway. So I did a video of it. I walked around and showed it up, and then Tom Russell puts it up. Well, here's an example of straight line wind. Go Tom. But it was, and I said, that's pretty cool. Yeah, but he looks for things like that, and I offered it to him. He he saw where I posted it. He took it and put it on his site, and then took it for the presentation that he did. So, because you don't get to see real life straight line winds and what they do, but that's one of the things you learn in this Skywarn thing. And I think of all the things we do, Skywarn is probably one of the most important, and it's the ones that we're going to use the most. And the other training of the normal nets, we will be trying them out for real a couple of different ways. Harrisburg Radio Amateur Club has a trailer, and this trailer has HF radios in it, 2 meters, 440, well, I'm sorry, you kids call it 70 centimeters now. I'm still stuck in a different world. 70 centimeters, we have microwave capabilities to go into the C-pin network if we want, for whatever purpose, I have no clue, but we have that. We have a remote repeater to put in it. I haven't installed that yet, but we were working on some ideas. Zach and Dan and I got together and talked about some ideas how to make it more functional. It's a 12-foot V-nose trailer, and it has 2 operating stations in it, which need a little bit of tweaking for weight balance and so forth. We take it out for field day as an example, and I used field day as a training as well as field day. And when we set it up, you guys were both there, right, for that. I actually got ridden up by the ARRL for it in a good way. It was as, this guy was around to several, quite a few actually, field day setups, and he came and said, the report he sent back to the ARRL was, I've been to all of them, but the only one was the Harrisburg Radio Amateur Club, where they took new hams and showed them how to do things, and it became an instructional thing. We learned everything from how to wind up cables to how to be on the air and build antennas and make them all work. And we do that with special event stations that we take out. that becomes part of what we're going to do as well. We have a special event in April, and we're looking for volunteers to be on it. And Dan, tell us where that's gonna be. Ball's in your court.
ARES Railroad Tower Museum, we're gonna do a special event station. It's the 90th anniversary of the railroad tower, which is now a museum. And downtown Harrisburg at the corner of 7th and Walnut Street, oddly enough, right by the railroad tracks.
It's by the railroad track. Are they real trains? Dan's done a great job with that tower. I'm sure I had a little bit of help, but it's all you, right?
No, there's a lot of people pitching in, and there were 2 of us that did the engineering work on that. And you've seen the old towers, the old movies where you pull the levers to control the switches and signals. This tower controlled all the traffic in downtown Harrisburg. The machine is still there that did the switching. It has 113 levers on it. Another engineer and I took the thing and tied it into a computer, programmed it with the actual Pennsylvania Railroad train schedules from 1943 during the war. And visitors actually run the machine, and you see the machine, the trains moving on the 20-foot wide lighted map that shows you how the signals are separated. It's kind of cool.
It is pretty cool. And people can get on their computer through a certain way and see the trains move in real life, right?
Yeah.
And you guys set up a network of
Data
receivers everywhere to get into it.
Yeah, basically, it started out, we wanted an exhibit in the museum which would contrast how things are done in real life today with computers versus how it was done in 1943.
Oh.
So you can stand there and look at this 1920s vintage equipment and then turn around and look at real time how the dispatchers are controlling it today. And by the way, she used to be a dispatcher.
She did what?
She used to be a dispatcher for Norfolk Southern.
Oh, cool. You told them where the trains go. Well, the cool thing that I thought was when you can hear the action, it sounds like you're listening to the radio back in whatever year that would have been.
Well, it was actually pre-radio, and this was the communications network that the Pennsylvania Railroad had set up, so that the towers could communicate with one another and keep track of where everything was. And incidentally, that was the largest privately owned communication system in the world, other than AT&T, for the Pennsylvania Railroad. So as part of the simulation, we simulate that voice traffic, and where we could, we actually got guys that used to work in the towers to come in and record a script that what you're hearing.
When was it we were down there for a special event? That was
5 years ago, it was the 85th anniversary.
When was it?
85th anniversary, so it would have been 5 years.
5 years ago. And we had radio set up in the building and at operating points. And is that what you want to do again, similar?
No, just put the trailer outside this time.
Do it in the trailer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where you can demonstrate ham radio to the public as well.
Good deal. Who wants to be part of something cool? All right. We got people. We can make it happen.
The next question is, we're actually gonna do this 2 days. Do you wanna put the trailer there for both days or just one day?
Is it a Saturday and Sunday? Well, I have other duties Sunday morning, so, and most of my Sundays are just tied up with that. So if there's people who wanna do it, and you have a big old truck, don't you?
Yeah.
You can move it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's doable. I wouldn't wanna keep it there unattended overnight, though, I wouldn't think.
Well, we're gonna have some conversations with the Capitol Police, because we're also gonna have a food trailer there and some other stuff.
Oh, overnight, too?
And before it slips my mind, could you bring the yellow jackets, because we will have to run power cables.
They're, you realize how heavy the yellow jackets are cool. We use them for broadcasting. You have cables you need to run and where cars run over. And,
People trip on it.
or they trip over them, but they're so damn heavy. Let me just say it that way, they're so heavy. They're in that big box, and I don't know how I got them to where they are, but I need help to move these things. Even the cart, tires go way down.
Just gotta eat your weeds.
So we can take some out and.
Yeah, that's what an intelligent person would do.
Would they?
One by one.
I wouldn't bring all of them down, but.
Basically what it is, Think of a small speed bump, the top flips open and then there are troughs in it if you run your cables to it and the top snaps shut. You can actually run a Mack truck over it and not damage the cables. But the main thing is people aren't gonna trip and break their neck.
So we should, wherever that sign-in sheet is, we should have you sign up as well. Pass this around, those who want to be part of this event. Did everybody sign in on this? Mr. D?
For the dates, is it April 25th?
25th and 26th.
25th and 26th.
And if anybody else missed that, we'll pass it around too. So here's, I'll pass this around. If anybody wants to be part of this special event, this is the first of our fun nights, fun days out, and you get to operate a fully operational emergency trailer. And to tell you about this trailer, if you haven't seen it or whatever, it's, like I said, it's a V-nose, big trailer. It's got our logo on it for the club and all that. We took it out on the PAQSO party several years ago, and we have the power generator. We have antennas that are on the roof that we have to take down to move it because they're too high and they'll break. But we got to the point where we were driving in, we'd pull into a parking lot, and within 2 minutes, we had the antennas up, we were on the air, power generator running and everything within 2 minutes of landing on a spot to show how quickly you can deploy in an emergency. This trailer will do that. We have ham stick antennas that we tuned. We have a ball mount on the roof. We also have ability to put up a multi-band dipole. We have 40-foot vertical with an automatic tuner. Depending on what strikes our fancy at the time, it's all there. And that's, as a club, we've got it and said, now we got it. Let's get people out to do it. The club went through some changes of people and as far as their interests and all that, so it's ours to use. And I can make that decision because I'm the pres of that club, so we can do that. And it would be great to have it out. And I ran this all by the club membership long ago, and we all discussed having a special event. And getting enough people involved in it comes down to this group here who really will benefit from that. So we have some other ideas for places to go over the summer. I work best in the summer because I can't stand cold weather. That's why I was moving to Florida. And now it's all out of the way right now. So we'll come up with other places. If you can think of some cool places to take it, we're looking for anything to use it in, with parades, foot races. I have one that I want to bring up. I have a 5K race in March, I think it is. No, it would have to be May. It has to be May. I'll get the dates on that and let you all know. And that's in Halifax. I do the sound and PA system and all that for it, and I'll be there running that. But it could be cool to have people along who could be stationed at the checkpoints along the way and pass all the word. You never know. I mean, this race has all age groups in it. And a couple of years ago, they said, well, we don't have anybody who was in the over 60 age group. And I turned to the lady running and said, I mean, I could have entered that one. She said, yes, you could have. I could have walked the whole thing. I could have won. And actually, I haven't seen anybody over 60 run it yet. So maybe if there's enough people. What's that?
You're gonna do it this year. You're gonna do it this year, though.
I might.
We'll definitely need the hams monitoring for that one. Terry, one question I misheard on the ARRL EC001 Intro to Emergency Comm. You said sign up for the mentored or the non-mentored?
Non-mentored.
Non-mentored.
Yeah, because I've got that all here. And I hope to have all of that squared away with the ARRL over the next couple of days. That's how I can handle all of that. So.
The race in Halifax, that's the one with the horses, you said? Or is
Both.
it-
Halifax has the horses and the 5K race.
And what was the date on that one?
That's, it's usually about the last week of,
July. Last week.
And it's actually not in Halifax, it's.
It's Muckle Rats, which,
Yeah,
that's technically.
More like Elizabethville, closer
Well,
to Elizabethville.
On the mailing list for that area, it's Halifax.
Okay.
That's really what it is. But the Elizabethville Berries Mountain Amateur Radio Club, somehow they took charge of it, and that's great. They're a great bunch of people up there.
Right.
But they are part of us, part of our MCOM stuff. Those are the guys, they couldn't make it here today, so I met with them at noon, and they're all in on all this. So, I have to get the dates for the 5K as well.
I have a logistical question. We're doing this net on the 1-1 repeater. So is Skywarn. So in an actual emergency, how are we going to share that, or are we going to split up on separate repeaters? Or
The reason I chose that, okay, this goes back to the 145, 11, 147, 075, and 448, 075 repeaters are all in the same tower. They are the highest and widest coverage repeaters we have at the moment. What's that?
Has this been on that side?
It's been all around.
Okay.
When we were setting them up, 147075 used to be my repeater in Halifax. It was originally up here in where it is now, but no, originally it was on Berry Mountain when I owned it. I put it up in 75 or 76, something like that. I put it up, got the frequency, put it up. And then when, after I gave away the first house, I moved to Campbelltown and it was too far away to deal with. So I turned it over to another club who used to be here, and they took it over and put it up at 145, 11, or up on the same site. So that later on, county took over, that repeater was abandoned, and a pickup truck shows up at my house one day and opens up the back and says, "Here's your old repeater back." And I said, "What do I do with that?" They said, "Put it on the air." I said, "Okay." So I put it back on the air from Halifax, and we made a deal with Dauphin County to put it up where it is now. And they said, "Sure, it can come up here, but it's gotta be Motorola equipment." I said, "And who's gonna pay for that?" They said, "There's a grant available." So we did it, we put it up. It carried a couple different call signs over the time, went up first with my call sign, it was, the Pima had a call sign we put on it, and then our club got it for a while under that call sign, and we decided we didn't want it anymore because there was no way to control it remotely, and Dauphin County held the key. So it ended up with the CPRA's call sign on W3ND, and that's where it stands now. And at that point in time, we had a meeting. One of these has to be assigned for emergencies to Pima, one to Dauphin County. And it became, okay, call it. Okay, this one is for, so 1075 became Dauphin County's, and 11 became, wait, it's the other way around. The other way around. 11 became Dauphin County, right?
Yeah.
And then 075 became Pima. And for no other reason, they don't own it, it's just the one that we designated that they would use during those times. So, to answer your question in a roundabout way, I don't know. It's, we probably should be at 075, but 11 has been kind of where we kind of gravitate to.
Well, I'm just wondering what will happen in an actual situation.
Well, in an actual situation,
Training stops.
Dauphin
Emergency
County.
takes over.
What's that?
Training stops, emergency takes over.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're gonna have this, you know.
Two things that
ARES
need to be worked on.
racing. Right.
Well, to a degree, when they, you know, it would be Skywarn trained people reporting to.
Well, yeah, the Skywarn people that are training would also be the same ones that be ARES races too, so they would know what to do. And I think they could coexist with the same traffic, because you'll know how to do all of it. I think it's gonna work.
Are all the Skywarn people gonna be trained?
They will be.
In the group.
In the group.
In this group. But there are people in Skywarn now that may not be trimmed.
That's true, that's the problem I'm having ARRL help me with at this point. Because if, and this is one of those, stay tuned for more, because we're going to have a problem if they don't come around and let me train them, because it's a necessity that has to be done. And if that doesn't happen and I can't remove it from the club status that it is and make it a real operational Skywarn, we will start another one on an alternate day at probably 8 o'clock, because 9's a bit late. And we'll find a day and time that we can have the Dauphin County Skywarn net where we will meet. That's the only way I can handle it, because I don't have control over giving the points to them for the ARES Connect, because it's right now out of my jurisdiction.
Speaking of that ARES Connect for that Skywarn Wednesdays, that's not up on the calendar to collect points.
It's what?
I believe it is.
Well, maybe because we had the presentation last week, I tried to find it, and there's weeks it'll be on, there's weeks it drops.
It's not there now.
Yeah, I know it's not there now, because I tried to look at,
And I didn't take it off.
but I've noticed it was on there prior
Yeah,
a
it
couple
was.
times. Just,
You're saying it what?
I noticed prior it was on. and
Yeah, it was.
It just,
When I took over, they wiped all that off. And I've had conversations with the people above about it, and I said, I put it in the ARRL people's hands. I said, you guys fix the problem, and then if I can do training, I'll have it on. If not, we'll start our own. And they said to me, you might just want to think about starting your own net to have it. And it's unfortunate that it became that way. It was never intended to be that way.
What repeater would that new net be on if that comes to pass?
We'll do it on 1-1, same as the other one.
So we're gonna have 3 groups on 1 repeater
3 nets.
if there is an actual emergency.
We're
No
trying to make
disrespect,
that
but
into
that
one.
sounds dumb.
We're trying to make that into one.
Well, who's ultimately, that's an emergency repeater, right? So in the
It's one of the
emergency, the emergency.
So the emergency
takes
coordinator
control of-
gets to tell them, go take a hike, when it's a real emergency. And that they can't play by the rules, you know, we're the ones trained. If they don't wanna come to training, it's nothing I can do about it. And
Would it make sense to have Skywarn on 1 repeater and ARES on another?
I wanted to put it on 075, and the ARRL people said, but 1-1 is the one connected to State College.
Which is why that one would be Skywarn.
Yeah.
But I mean, would it then make sense to put this group on 075
For
everything?
is 075 Dauphin County, or is that Pima?
It's big, you say.
So Pima's a whole different animal. That's another group of people in the Pima building who run theirs. They, during an emergency, they are on 075.
But aren't they communicating with us?
Not usually.
Oh, okay.
No, they also run HF, which we will eventually, but during a Pima drill, they are on statewide with everybody on HF. And they use that as a way to bring messaging into the HF stuff. So they have I've listened to their drills. They do utilize all of that in their drills in prep for the real deal.
Who operates the Pima console then?
Doug Evans is in there a lot, and they have some other people in there. And that's another thing that I want to combine some training with them, because there will come a time when the people who are running that want to get out of it. And Doug Evans is one of them now. He's kind of the go-to ham for all of it. He's active in Mars and Gracie's and all that. And he's has some issues that he's dealing with personally, and I look for him eventually to move away, you know, and take care of his own things if he needs to. I don't leave that up, and I want to work with him to get all of you trained in Pima too. to know the room so you could walk in and set up.
Those security and stuff that you've gotta go through just to get in that damn door is ridiculous too.
Yeah, they, when they moved into the new building, it became a real interesting way to get in. And you have to be escorted, I believe, to where you need to go. Which, if you've never been in it, I'll have to find some of the pictures and bring them to show you what's in it. It's amazing. They know what's going on in this.
They had a tour a couple of years ago, maybe we could arrange for it.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial to see it.
Yeah, I knew some people down in Lancaster County, their group went into Pima. Yeah, so we probably could arrange it.
Yeah, we should do that. Let's make that happen, because it's an eye opener to walk into Pima and see how they do it. Now, I also want to have us meet at Dauphin County. Maybe I should do Dauphin County first, because it would be a real letdown if you went to Pima first. But it's, everything you've seen on the sci-fi movies of the situation controls and all that, it's that and a whole lot more in the Pima. It's the coolest thing. And to look at that and say, yeah, they got it under control. They know where everything is. You know, they have people monitoring the stupidest stuff, I thought, until I saw how it works. Twitter, Facebook, Waze, which is a traffic reporting thing, and Google Maps, and I don't know what all. Do you remember what all was in that? I walked through that room and I said, I can't believe you're watching. And cameras.
I mean, you basically have all the desk positions for all the various agencies.
Yeah.
Including the Liquor Control Board.
Yeah, they're in there.
And you chuckle at that, the reason that they use the Liquor Control Board is because they have a whole fleet of trucks that they can use to get materials moved around when they need to.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, and I said, so why are you using Twitter? He said, people will tweet about it before they call the police. I said, really? He said, yeah, we get more off of Twitter than you would imagine. So that's worth seeing. I'll work on it, get that on place for us.
What, I got a question, back to Skywarn, if one technically is not doing it right, correct? Can we say that, or we have to do it right?
We could say that.
Okay, then why doesn't the RL say,
knock it off?
Work together?
I see a lot of potential in you.
No, I mean, here we go, Democrat, Republican, we wanna do that shit show? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand
We
why
wanna work together.
one guy can't say, yo, you have a choice.
Yeah.
Do it right, because you're in control,
Yeah.
or go away.
That's what I'm working on, because I can't go there and get any respect. So I have the right people working on that.
So what are their credentials to do that then?
They have none,
Then how are they doing it?
because they did it. When the job that I had went over to this guy that we
Yeah.
won't talk about, that did it,
But if they don't have the credentials, why are they allowed to continue?
he had the credentials I have, but not the training I have. That's just the way to do it.
Well, who owns the repeater?
It's,
Tell
it's,
them you're not allowed on this repeater.
well, it's not that easy. It's being handled behind the scenes.
Yeah, but I think,
You want it to happen now.
well, no, you know me, yeah. But
Yeah.
this bullshit isn't gonna work, because everyone's saying, what do you do with,
I
it's
know.
ridiculous.
I know.
It's broken before you even get started.
Well, there are two people standing in the way. And they're being.
You call the boys.
I got these guys in Jersey, they're gonna come out and take care. Alright, it's getting late, it's time to call it quits, but, the next time we meet, it's the 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month. We're gonna start classes on the MCOM, the ARRL version, and, take these task books, go through them and write down any of the training you have. The ICS 100, 200, 700, and 800, go to Google and type in ICS, or whatever they call it now, IS 100, and it'll take you exactly to where you need to be to take the test, and learn the course and take the test. It'll take you right there.
So the next class is gonna be the EC 001, so we should already be signed up for that.
You should sign up for that too.
For next week's.
Yeah, and be ready for that. So,
I have a question. The coronavirus, is the county ready and are we a part of anything if something
I
happens?
haven't heard anything at all yet about it. I think it's not being taken
Right.
as a real threat yet.
You need to look at your control board.
But we'll see, because you know what they're all saying? Let's wait till the weather's gonna warm up and the virus is gonna go away. Does it do that?
Yes.
Yeah, some do better in summer than they do.
That's what they
Isn't
say.
it true if you drink lots of Corona beer, you won't get the virus?
That's true.
So maybe we should have Corona beer next
You
time.
have to have a line.
They
Put the lime in it?
Gotta have a line.
I'll bring the limes, Terry, you bring the Corona.
There's
That'll work.
who said that the virus is spreading in Singapore and it's like 90 and humid there.
Well, there goes that idea.
So, yeah, they're saying it's not behaving like a normal virus that usually doesn't transmit in humid, warm.
That's Trump's fault.
Is this through? Are these courses through ARES or